Welcome to the Pondcast, the destination for insightful discussions and interviews on the appreciation, conservation, and husbandry of reptiles, with a focus on turtles and tortoises. Now, let's join our team of turtle nerds.
Woo! Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Pondcast, episode 93. We're so excited to be here for you, with you, with a new look Pondcast for episode 93. We've been doing this a long time, closing in on 10 years now, and every so often the show gets a little bit of a facelift. We're excited about that. Today, we're excited about Kevin is here, and he does not have a delay, and his internet seems to be working. Shouldn't have said anything. In the veterinary field, we're really superstitious, and we say, like, can't say it's slow, can't say it's quiet. Like, people will scream at you and literally physically boot you out the door if you say those things. So anyway, Kevin's internet looks good. Feeling good about that. Good to see your smiling face, Kev. We also
you too, buddy. You too.
Thank you. We also have Emily, who's here with us, who is going to be helping us host the show. This is her first time on the show. She's a friend of ours that we know really well. She's a lead keeper at Riverside Reptiles Education Center, and she's wonderful. I met her months back when I did a talk for them, and she is a boss. And she also handles things that the rest of us would be super duper scared of, like spitting cobras and all sorts of really cool, crazy things. Right? I'm like, come on. So
No chance.
We're really, really excited to have her here with us. So Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hey, and Emily, I barely hold garter snakes, so
Did not score any cool points with that one. And you also, Kevin, you had seen Emily before when you visited Riverside. Can you tell us what happened in that short encounter with each other?
Absolutely, yeah. So the way I found out about Riverside Reptile Education Center is I had listed in Aldabra for sale, and they reached out to me to see if they can get it for their program, and we worked something out where it wasn't full price for them because it's an educational center, excuse me. But then I would go and I wouldn't pay to go, with my family. It's about an hour away, so I'm not going to go very often. But when I do, it's great to go there and see the animal. And I think the second time I went, there was no one around. I kind of reached into pet the Aldabra that they got from a while back, and Emily came around the corner and was like, "Are you in the Aldabra enclosure?" Like, get out of there, And I'm like, no, I'm Kevin. I brought this animal. Yeah, it was a good.
I love it.
Sorry, no one is above it. Sorry.
You're good.
That's right. You make one exception for one random bald guy, you have to make it for all of them. So
there's a lot of us bald guys out there.
Seriously, I'm just saying. But that's awesome. I love it. And then also we have our guest, our esteemed guest, Dr. Tony Monahan, PhD, the most incredible traveler that I've ever known, and we'll probably get into that. But Tony, it's such a pleasure to have you with us.
I am honored. Thanks for having me.
I guess probably I should say that I should preface that we spent a lot of time together in a few weeks back traveling to and from the TTPG, the Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group Conference, which was an amazing time. But traveling with you was really interesting. I had a bunch of people contacting me, like, when are you going to get here? When are you going to get here? They want updates. And I would tell them updates. And some of the things that I would tell them, like, for instance, I'm going to hop on the train bus thing. I don't even know what it was. It was a train bus from the airport and take it right there. And they're, you can't do that. That doesn't go there. And I'm like, well, I think the person I'm with knows you're very knowledgeable about traveling, and there's a reason for that. And that's what you're here for today, is to talk about your project. Can you your project and why you're so knowledgeable about traveling?
Sure. We're working on a project called the Turtle Lover's Guidebook. And it's a book on all things turtle. And the main features are going to be places that you can go and see turtles. So if you really like turtles, these are all the cool places you can go. So the main section is going to be zoos, aquariums, and education centers. And also we're going to have a section on turtle organizations, turtle rescues, turtles on social media and extensive bibliography. So as much information as I can get for turtles. And I really want to take a different angle from the old field guides. When I grew up, you get the field guide, you kind of figure out where you can grab these turtles from the woods or from ponds. And I want to take that away and say, if you really like turtles, go to these places. I've got 120 places so far that qualify for my book. I just returned from a trip to Salt Lake City, Boise, Idaho, and Chicago a couple of days ago.
How'd that trip go? You were talking about that trip when we were together.
Pretty smoothly, yeah. 3 days, 3 sites. That's an easy one. I wasn't in any particular site for more than 20 hours or so. So it was pretty much a flight. I flew to Salt Lake City, went to the zoo, got on a plane, flew to Boise, Idaho, stayed over, went to the Idaho Reptile Zoo, which was fabulous. It had 23 species of turtle.
Nice.
And all rescues. Wonderful job they're doing there. And I flew back through Chicago, stayed over Chicago so I can go visit the Shed Aquarium for the second time.
That's a big one, right? How many species at Shed Aquarium?
Probably around 15 right now.
Nice.
Last time I went there, it was my plane was delayed, so I didn't get there till around noontime. The place was just mobbed, and it was hard to get your photos. It's not the best place in the world to take photos. There's a lot of glare, a lot of glass, a lot of glare. So this time I had a little bit more success. They had a Jeff Roy's turtle.
Mm-hmm.
Finally got to see him.
Very cool.
Finally got to see him.
So everyone knows, like, what's so amazing about, and I know people who are at the TTPG. Tony was the banquet speaker there, which is like the featured speaker, and it was so fitting because of this amazing project that he's doing. And one of the and I've been thinking about it a lot. Tony came and visited me at my home and saw my collection, and we also got to spend this time on the road together for that one trip. So I've been able to think about his project a lot, and I think and really ponder over kind of what makes it really special from my very weird nerdy perspective. And that's like the hole in the wall places that you wouldn't know about otherwise, right? That now you'll have, hey, I'm going out to see family in this weird obscure place, or work is sending me to this weird obscure place. I wonder if there's a decent zoo, and you just kind of have to go and buy tickets and see what's there, kind of, and take a leap of faith, which is fun sometimes when you find a place that surprises you, right? It's fun. But what are some of those places where you've been pleasantly surprised or found a place that you didn't necessarily know about?
Well, this Idaho Reptile Zoo was amazing. It was very similar to Riverside Reptiles, where it's kind of in a strip mall. It's right next to the dollar store. And he's got ponds. He's got all kinds of enclosures. He's got a desert tortoise walking around on the floor. And I was really surprised to see that. And he was saying that what I've learned from my short time in Idaho is that there was a large influx of population from California in the last 10 years. They said 10 years ago they had 300,000 people. Now there's 1 million people in Boise, Idaho, and most of them immigrated from California. And all the people that brought their sulcata tortoises and their pet turtles and stuff found out that Idaho was not a great environment to raise a reptile. So he's got this place, and he takes in a lot of pets that people can't handle anymore. He also has an adoption program. So that was a good place. The Colorado Gators Reptile Park in Alamosa, Colorado sits on a 2,000-foot deep geothermal pool. and the water is a constant 87 degrees. So you got alligators hanging around in the snow. That was cool. And they've got 19 species of turtle. Kansas has a really cool Kansas wildlife exhibit. It's in a park in Wichita, Kansas. And it's just like this caged in place with all kinds of wildlife, lots of turtles. And they've got a giant alligator snapper turtle that's red for some reason. I mentioned Riverside Reptiles is still one of my favorite places. There's another similar place in south of Minneapolis in Minnesota called Reptile and Amphibian Discovery Zoo. And that's also in a strip mall. They've got like 30 species of turtle. So lots of fun places that I've seen. Holes in the Wall, George McGow State Park in Florida. They call it the Turtle Park. Boy Scouts built some rafts, and lots of turtles come on the rafts in the pond, but they also have tortoises around the building. They've got turtles inside, so lots of turtles there. People don't know about a lot of these places. So these are, like you said, the hole in the wall places that I've discovered a lot of times through word of mouth. I went to Kansas thinking I was going to go to 2 sites. I ended up with 5 sites just by talking to people. So,
That's such an important piece. I think if I don't mind bringing it over to Emily now, as somebody who helps run a by my estimation large, but we're talking about institutions like zoos and aquariums.
We lost
think you
we lost
froze.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Froze. Yeah, I think he was going to ask you based on the size of like your place. What does it take, kind of like running that? I think, but I don't know offhand exactly. So if you want to answer that, also Tony, I have a question for you as well, based on what you were saying. Was of all the hole in the wall places, I know you said you love Riverside Reptile, but which place would you say, if the person was out and about, they would have to go check this place out of the others?
well, it depends on where you are in the country.
Well, say you make it your destination.
I kind of rate them as places I would go back to.
Okay.
And some places I go and I don't need to go back to it. But that Colorado Gators place, I just loved it. And it was such a unique place. It's in the middle of nowhere. The other place is the Kirikawa Desert Museum in New Mexico, right over the Arizona border. And that place has a desert garden that is just absolutely gorgeous, with turtles and tortoises walking around. It's absolutely amazing. I could have stayed there all day long. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I'm sorry, I just cut out in the middle of asking my question last time. I'm so embarrassed. I wanted to ask Emily, as somebody who's running, like, who's helping run a larger place that's larger by our standards, place that's.
We're never going to hear the question.
This was happening to me a few months back.
I know. What the heck is going on? It's just me. Emily, what does it mean to you to be included in a book like this as Riverside Reptile?
Honestly, it's an honor because some of the places that you're listing are places that I know of and I follow on social media and I'm a big fan of. So to hear that we're included in that, that's an honor. Thank you. I also have been joking that I'm going to rename us Riverside Turtle Education Center since we have so many turtles. So I guess that kind of goes right along with your book then. So.
Well, in fact, when I show a sample site page to people, it's Riverside Reptiles. I finished the site page. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sample page. Yeah.
Cool. I have a question too. So I just wanted to circle back to something you said. You said there was an alligator snapping turtle that was red, like the color red. Oh, interesting. What kind of alligator snapper was it? Do you know? Yeah. Oh, okay. No. Too on the spot. Sorry.
I think her name is Jolene. And I asked the caretaker about it, and I didn't get a response. I showed it to Greg from Greg's Turtle Haven, and he's pretty convinced it's something to do with the water.
Oh, okay.
It's not foreign red. It's just a reddish color to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen that on like painted turtles before coming out of a pond where the entire plastron is just like a deep red, almost like a with a little bit like brown mixed in, but way more red.
Like a higher iron content in the water. Or
Yeah,
something,
really
maybe?
high iron content. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
And they stay in the water
I'm a
all
big
the
fan
time.
of snappers. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have some there at Riverside that are pretty cool. That I like the enclosure that it's in. Multiple angles for you to see it, you know?
Yeah, so that's Ben. He's an Appalachicola, and then we have the Temenikii. Feel free to call me out if I'm pronouncing the species wrong.
Better than
but
me.
yeah, so we tried them together. We have a male and a female, and he was just very amorous whenever we put them together. So we decided to separate them. But I'm a big fan of Ben. I love him. He's my favorite animal here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you at the building right now?
Yeah. So I'm actually in my office because I'm in the process of moving, and the internet is better here. So
Gotcha.
This is behind the scenes.
And you live in Connecticut as well?
Yep. Yeah. So I live in Stratford. It's about an hour to an hour and a half from here in Enfield.
I'm next door. I'm in Milford.
Oh, get out. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I dropped a turtle off to you once before.
I think you picked up an enclosure at my house.
That's right. Yes, that's exactly what I did. It was a vision cage, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you guys, best friends.
Serious.
And I think I'm supposed to give a 3-toed box turtle to one of you. That's
me, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's good. You got to come out checking out terrapins with me in the bay. I live on the estuary.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I would love to do that.
I got a bunch of kayaks. You can come out anytime.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Well, one of the
Anthony,
features
you
in
can
my on each page is a feature that's called Turtle Spotted At, like Turtle Spotted At Riverside Reptiles, and I put the listing down. So I'm going to have to double check my list with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you might have more stuff than I saw last.
Yeah, we're always getting stuff. We actually just got 2 new animals in the last few days. The numbers are always changing here.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just got a new Mexican black king snake. He's quarantining in my office right now, right there. And we just got a puff adder who is quarantining in my office right there.
I saw that.
Yeah. And then we have Western Diamondback quarantining in my office right there. And then we have 2 Gila monsters quarantining in my office as well. So I have a lot of animals right here.
If at some point you want to pick a Gila monster up and put him in frame for me, I greatly appreciate that.
Do you want me to grab one right now?
My favorite animal of all time.
Really? Okay, I can grab one for you. We have 2 here.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm getting geeky.
And Tony, I respect you. And this is what's interesting too about having Emily on, because I respect you a lot because you're a bit of a one-trick pony. You just want to see the turtles. You can go to a zoo that has pandas, elephants, huge crocodilians, cool lizards, whatever it is, and you just want to see the turtles.
Yeah, because it's my time. It's what I'm doing. So sometimes I'm going to 3 and 4 places in one day. I really don't have time to look. I'm really put the blinders on and focus on the turtles and get my shots and move on. You know, so I've taken trips. I went from Colorado, Denver Zoo to Pueblo Zoo in the same day, over to Alamosa, down to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Went to the zoo, the aquarium, the botanical gardens, and they had a beach that had a secret turtle pond in the backwoods that I found a path to. They told me found this path to a secret turtle pond. So all these sites, and usually I do everything in 2 days, 2-day, 1-night trips.
That's so cool. And when you're finding stuff in a pond like that, and Emily's back with the Gila monster. We'll talk about that in a second. But when you're finding like a pond like that, you're listing that on the page for that place, right? Yeah. But are you also listing, if you saw any species there, you're not listing them in their list of species, are you?
Well, something like the Albuquerque, it's called the ABQ Biopark. So it's got 4 locations. It's got the zoo, the aquarium, the botanical gardens, and this, I think it's Stingley Beach. So that all counts at the same page, the same site. And also something like North Carolina Aquarium, there's 3 sites. I've been to all 3 sites, but I'm only going to count them as, North Carolina Aquarium, in the 3 locations. So, it depends on where I'm going, but, I try to be inclusive, but I'm not breaking it down to that finite of a detail. It just makes sense to include all the sites for North Carolina Aquarium as one, maybe 3-page worth of book.
Awesome.
And,
Interesting. That makes sense to me. And now Emily's back with a Gila monster. That's really cool. Kevin, you've been on the podcast for how long? You never brought a Gila monster on to show everybody. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. It's happening.
Legally, I'm not allowed to keep them, so I won't have them at my home. Fortunately, I'm about an hour away from seeing them in person.
Yeah.
And I mean, Brian gave me up close look last time, so I was really happy to see that.
Don't let Emily catch you getting a close-up look.
I won't yell at you this time.
She'll let it bite you this time,
She's going to smack your wrist.
The Aldabras won't bite. That thing might, and a trip to the hospital. One of the few venomous lizards in the world. That thing is amazing.
Yeah. So this is, her name is Mr. McNasty. And she is
classic.
I guess the facility where she came from previously, it was a bunch of interns who named her, I think, or college kids. And she's geriatric, so she's off exhibit to just kind of hang out and not have anyone stare at her for the rest of her life. So yeah, this is her. They're a lot of fun to work with. They're pretty chill for the most part. I have worked with some pretty wild ones before though, but yeah, so anytime you need your Gila fix, come and visit us.
I will. And what's the primary diet that you feed? In the wild, it's a lot of eggs and carrion, right?
Yeah, so I think for what we understand about them is when they come up to the surface, because they spend a lot of time underground, then that's when they'll eat a lot of birds and eggs and stuff, like baby birds in the nests. But otherwise, we feed our guys mice, and sometimes we'll give them egg as a treat, but we notice that they get a little bit chunky if we feed them too many eggs, so we try not to feed them too much of that. And then we'll also give them quail sometimes too, little baby quail chicks, all frozen thawed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Heliodermis suspectum. So cool.
It's too cool.
What I think is the most fascinating thing about them is the osteoderms are actually on the skeletal structure. Like you see the skeletal head, it's lumpy. It's like just like their skin is. It's so neat. It's not just like a scales on top.
Yeah, they're osteoderms. They I love it when you touch them and you can feel every single one. It's really cool.
Yeah, awesome animal. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right, I'll put her back.
I was nervous about bringing Emily on with how Kevin would react, but I'm pretty excited right now with how you guys are getting along so swimmingly.
How did you think I was going to react?
I'm totally kidding. That was a joke.
Jealous co-host?
Yeah, that was a total joke. But I've never seen you like become so bright and light up like that. Like
yeah, because she's not picking on me, Not yet.
Anyway. Just wait. By show 2 or 3, she'll catch on. She'll get it. She'll be picking on you in no time.
Tony, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because unfortunately, I'm ignorant. And I really don't know. Can you? So you're a doctor with a PhD. What is in what, and like how did you get into it? All of these things. So I'm just like more caught up. I'm sorry. I'm so not caught up, I should say.
Yeah, my doctorate is in education. I've been a teacher my whole life, most of my life. And being a teacher has allowed me to live in lots of places. I lived there in different countries and different states. And I always loved turtles. As a kid, I loved turtles. I had pet turtles. And when I get older, I couldn't really have them because I was traveling and living overseas. But I always loved them. So my degree has nothing to do with turtles. I'm not a herpetologist or anything like that. So it has allowed me the freedom freedom of schedule to do this particular project. In my job in New York, I can make my own schedule. So basically, they told me that I can teach whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. So the first thing I said, well, I'm not going to do Fridays anymore. And now I teach, this semester, I teach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
That's awesome.
So wonderful. And when you've been traveling, you visited all these different sites. You were talking about how you might do, 5 sites in one trip. How many sites have you visited for this project?
About 215 or so.
I asked for a reason. I knew it was a lot.
But I count, but that counts like people's backyards, like yours. I have the thing that I did that was fairly smart was I kept a spreadsheet of everything, every place I went from the beginning, before I even came up with the book idea. When I bought a camera in 2015, I bought a camera to take photos of turtles. And I started at the New York Turtle and Tortoise Society show and started taking some photos. And then I started to take different trips. And every time I took a trip, I kept a spreadsheet of where I went and what I saw. So this way, if I came across a photo I liked, I can just look at the number, the date, and find out where I was on that particular day. Now it's gotten to the point where it's extremely organized on spreadsheets. I have multiple spreadsheets of chronological, alphabetical. I've got folders for every species. And so I've been pretty good with that. Yeah.
One other thing that's really interesting is you've kept track of what species you're seeing the most, and which ones are more rare. And I think it's actually surprising that some of these species that we talk about being really rare are kind of at the top of the list. What are some of the species you're seeing the most?
Well, red ear is the most by far, but alligator snapping turtle is pretty high. A lot of alligator snapping turtles. Red bellies. I see a lot of eastern box turtles. I see a lot of spotted turtles. Now, I don't mind seeing these things because they are pretty rare in the wild. So it's good to see that they're being kept and they're propagating, and so I'm good. I'm happy. I just saw a spotted turtle in Salt Lake City. So I was happy to see. I'm always happy to see them. But my issue is, since I've seen Aldabra tortoises at 45 locations, and I can't exactly have 45 pictures of Aldabra tortoises in my book. And some of the best shots I've taken I can't use because there are turtles that I've seen enough of. So they have to get used some other way.
So this is going to sound weird, but I know this company that has these calendars of turtles and tortoises that go out each year. So if you have these like unused shots, you want to send them over, we can look at them.
Yeah, I think I missed the deadline for that too. Yeah, I have plenty.
Awesome.
Absolutely, yeah.
What species did you only see one of? What are species that you've traveled the entire country and you've gone to all these different places and you've only seen one time? Does anything stand out?
Well, some of those flap shells that Wayne Hill has down at his house, I've only seen once or twice. Indian flap shells. I've seen the Kitra indicas at San Diego, and I've seen the Kitra at St. Louis Zoo, and I think Columbus Zoo has those too. I love those things. I've only seen an Alabama map turtle once at the Denver Zoo, and I've been all through Alabama. Been through Alabama twice. I've only seen an Alabama map turtle one time in Denver. I've never seen an Escambia map turtle. Some of these map turtles I haven't seen. Pascagoula map turtle, I think I've seen once in Cincinnati. So things like
Yes, we had Ryan Dumas on to talk about that. He's the one who kind of was involved in that project, if my memory serves.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that Jeff Roy. I went to the Shed Aquarium a couple summers ago, and all you can see is his feet. He's hanging out, and he's hanging his feet on, and you can't see above. You can only see his feet below. And stayed there for a couple hours, and he never moved. So on Saturday, I was in Chicago again, and I went there. I got there 9 a.m., went right to the spot, and there's his feet again. I'm like, oh, come on. So I do the rounds. I go around and around and around, and finally, like an hour later, he came out. And I told the people that was standing there, excuse me, I've been waiting all day for this. And I just cut in front of everyone and started taking my pictures. And thankfully, I got a couple of shots.
I love it
one
because
shot.
you're like a pushy New Yorker, but also like the biggest nerd they've ever seen. It's like
Yep.
they
I
probably
gotta
tell
tell you.
stories about you. We went to the zoo. Remember that time we went to the zoo 5 years ago, and that guy told us he was waiting for 4 hours to see the little turtle that nobody else cared about.
So, Tony, with all your traveling, what haven't you seen that you really wanted to?
Well, there's all this stuff in Anthony's backyard. A lot of stuff I see in the. I see things in the reptile shows. I see things in people's yards that aren't in the zoos.
Yeah.
They're not in the zoos and not in the aquariums. So a lot of that stuff, that I haven't seen. I know that there's a lot of things I probably never see. The Tennessee Aquarium told me that Michael Ogle told me that they were going to get one of those speckled Cape tortoises. These little padlopers, the smallest tortoise in the world.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And he said it was being held up in Norway and customs. This is during COVID. I'm not sure if they got it yet or if they're ever going to get it, but I've never seen one of those. I would love to see the smallest tortoise in the world, for sure.
How much smaller than an Egyptian is it?
I'm probably not that much smaller because Egyptians are pretty small. I don't know. I never saw one. We'll see.
Anthony, or Anthony or Steve, do you know rough weight for like an adult padloper?
I've never seen one, so
okay.
I can guess. They have a short. They have a short shell, and then they're also obviously so it's small.
Yeah, a few hundred grams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
yeah, because I have small Egyptians and things, but they're so domed comparatively.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I find out they have it, I'll go there. I just got my flight to Florida today to go see Ty Park at Iguanaland again. The first time I went was before they opened, and I got a nice tour of the place. So now I want to see it in operation. So I'll be going there in 2 days after I come back from Hawaii in January.
Are they all repaired from the hurricane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ty was at the TTPG with us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really bummed
I went down. I went a couple weeks after the hurricane, maybe like a week and a half, and there was you could see some remnants obviously in the surrounding area, and some of his breeding areas for his iguanas, the older stuff from before it was a zoo, were more affected than anything else. He was very lucky. They were lucky.
I'm glad.
I'm looking forward to see him, and also looking to go to Reptilandia in Johnson City, Texas. They told me they're going to open at the end of January, so I'll probably get there first week of February.
So I think let me just take this moment, if anyone can still hear me and my internet is working okay. This is your chance to ask the questions about the entire zoo world as it relates to turtles. So what's the biggest collection of turtles? What's the biggest collection of reptiles? What place is the cleanest? What place has the most space for their animals? Like, those are all questions that go through my head.
Well, the Iguanaland is by far the biggest that I've seen. we counted 94 species when I was there. But Ty told me that they have 120 now, so I got to go back and see what they have. Tennessee Aquarium, absolutely fabulous. I know, Anthony, you recognize the turtle I used in my artwork as it's not only the species, but where I got the photo from Tennessee Aquarium. Amazing. I mentioned Zoo Knoxville. They have the new ARC Amphibian Reptile Center. Absolutely beautiful, big giant greenhouse. I love to go back there. The Fort Worth Zoo has an amazing building called the Museum of Living Art, and it's the reptile amphibian house designed by Greg George Designs. San Diego, of course, is fabulous. I didn't spend nearly enough time there. I'll be going back as soon as I can.
I was there a couple weeks ago.
Did you see the babies? The
The baby what?
Ketra indica babies?
I did not. No, a lot of the stuff, because when I was there, it was very cold. It was like 60 degrees, so a lot of stuff was off display.
Yeah, so that's why I would go. I mean, I saw the indicas, and apparently they had them for 20 years, and they just had 41 babies.
It's a big deal.
First time
So
in
that's
20 years. So
that's giant, narrow-headed soft shells for anyone who's wondering, and that's a specific species in that genus. But they're a big deal. Very rarely kept and very rarely bred.
I did see them actually. I did see those actually. Yeah, they kept them with. I want to say they were in with Matamatas. I think so.
Okay, I saw them outside with the Batigers.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's absolutely where they were. Excuse me. Yeah.
Kevin's not writing a book. He's not keeping track.
I'm not. I also had a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old yelling at me to go home to go to the gift shop to buy them toys.
Classic. Classic. You can't buy that sight of those turtles. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are they rarely kept due to being endangered or difficult? They're difficult to keep, or
and large. All of the above. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And also not really appreciated, right? It's a big, floppy, sloppy. It looks like spilled 3-dimensional paint. Like it's like these big turtles, and there's a lot of different species that all get really big, and yeah, they're just big old mushy things, and a lot of people don't appreciate them, but they are kind of like an acquired taste, and there are people that really do love them very much, and they are incredible animals, especially when you see them in person. It's different.
Yeah, you have to be patient because they bury themselves in the sand. And you have to wait for them to come up, take a breath. So it could be an hour, So I've learned to be patient when I can be patient. I spent probably an hour and 15 minutes waiting for a Hecate turtle to come up, take a breath in Jacksonville Zoo, and then I only got one shot. Because he came up and behind a little plant. A very secretive state. I could see him at the bottom, but I waited and waited for him to come up, take a breath. Finally got one shot of it. Not a great shot, but I'll take it.
So
sometimes it's really cool.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm on a schedule, but yeah.
I apologize. We have a question that ties in with this from Michael Thatchus. I'm going to Thatchus Swami. Sorry, Michael. I apologize.
Yikes.
But he says, when you visit these zoos, do you get to take behind-the-scene tours, or are you just documenting what's on display?
I want to give the visitor perspective.
Okay.
So I want to tell the audience that if you go to this particular place, this is what you can expect to see.
Okay.
So yes, I have had behind-the-scenes tours and stuff, but any picture I display in my book is going to be from the visitor's perspective. No special treatment.
I love that too. If I can just add, I think one of the things I'm most excited about with this project, people who are into baseball get to keep track of all the different stadiums they could visit for a game, right? People who birders can keep a track with a checklist of all the different birds that they see. And Tony is putting together this project that takes so much of that work out of it, and it really makes it possible for us to say, okay, I want to see the top 30 turtle zoos before I die. And now because of Tony, I can do that. And some of them I could hit in the same day even. So
Yeah.
it's incredible to be able to have a resource like that, you know, for whatever the price of the book will be, to be able to have that resource to be able to do that. It's incredible.
Do you have an
Yeah,
estimated time when it's going to be published?
Well, I have submitted a proposal, so I'm waiting to hear. I would say that I've got a handful of sites left. That's it.
There should be a
haven't
book like
done-
this for everything. There should be a lizard one. There should be
Yeah.
there should be a panda one. There should
Snake
there's
one.
everything. There should be a fish one. I don't know. Everything.
Yeah.
It's an incredible idea that I've never heard of before
Mm-hmm.
for anything outside of this.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Are you going to include any exhibit information, like kind of rating who has the best exhibit in terms of space or in terms of meeting their needs or anything like that?
Great question.
I'm keeping the descriptions as simple as possible, but I am taking photos of exhibits. I take photos of buildings and signs
Awesome.
and exhibits and things like that, because you can't just have all turtle posing in the same pose. So I'm trying to get a variety of things. For Riverside reptiles, I have that, was that Turtle Haven outside pond area. I've got a nice picture of that with a description. So I do like to do things like that, absolutely. And especially places like Zoo Atlanta and Fort Worth, where someone like Greg George comes in and does an amazing exhibit, artistic type exhibit.
Doesn't
Above
Zoo
and below.
Atlanta is it Zoo Atlanta that has the exhibit that looks like a kitchen, like a soup kitchen? Did you see that one? I thought it was. Maybe I made that up. I can't remember exactly what zoo it was, but it's one that, like, it was a commentary on how, like, turtles get made into soup, and it's like it looks like a kitchen, but then there's water. Okay,
Oh.
maybe I dreamt that. Maybe that was something I dreamt in my dream, and it doesn't
That's
exist.
the beginning of your program.
Tony would have seen it.
Yes, I've checked out Clyde Peeling's Reptiland. I love that place too.
I actually just went to Clyde Peeling's. I went on a road trip just a few weeks ago, and I hit Clyde Peeling's. I hit the Nashville Zoo, Chattanooga Zoo and Aquarium, and or Tennessee Aquarium. And I was glad to hear you mention Tennessee Aquarium, because that was like amazing. That lab where they breed all of those turtles. That I just took one giant video, because I was like, there's no way I can take enough pictures to give this justice. Yeah, so Clyde Peeling's was definitely a nice place.
Yeah. I've also went to the TSA Turtle Survival Center. I've been to the Baylor Center in California. These are part of organizations that, I'm not going to, it's not like anyone can go there, but I'll certainly include those in write-ups about their organization. So things like that.
What was the biggest? Well, I guess I kind of already asked when I asked for, like, the kind of unknown places, but what were some of the biggest surprises that you can recall?
Well, I was surprised to see this Idaho reptile zoo. It's a fairly new place. And both Uber drivers, the one that dropped me off and the one that picked me up, I've been here for 20 years. I've never even heard of this place. So it was pleasantly surprised. It was beautiful. It was clean. They had a lot of space, and had a big pond with lots of turtles, and they had a separate pond next to it with baby turtles. They had another pond with just snapping turtles. They had their, different crocodiles and lizards and stuff, but mostly turtles. They had their aldabras, one aldabra, and they had several sulcatas. So that was really, really nice to see. I was happy. That was, the biggest place of this last trip, which was great. They saw Utah's Hogle Zoo in Salt Lake City. They had 10 species. But Idaho had 22, 23 species. So that was nice to see. Not every place that I've been to is qualifies. I'm not doing a rating system or anything like that. If it's in the book, it's worth going to. But some places I found that weren't very hygienic. Some places are, kids are feeding the turtles all day long. They're putting a quarter in the machine and they're just getting fed all day long, and they didn't look healthy. Flies all over the place. So some places aren't going to make the cut. And other places I've been to that just don't have 5 species, which is my cutoff.
I wanted to ask about that. So 5 species is the cutoff. If you don't have 5 species, you don't make it in the book. What do you think the average amount of species at a zoo that's open to the public is? And then what were some of the numbers for some of the hires? We know about Iguanaland now, that's number 1, but what about some of the others?
Bronx Zoo has 40 plus. Tennessee Aquarium has 50 plus. San Diego, Columbus Zoo in Ohio is absolutely fabulous. There were lots of turtles. Knoxville is wonderful. These places I go back in a heartbeat. San Antonio Zoo in Texas, I've been there probably 6 times. And the Denver Zoo was really nice as well. So, a lot of places. But there's places like when you go more west, you're going to see less turtles because there's less turtles in the wild there. So Steinhardt Aquarium, which is an amazing aquarium, part of in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, has only 5 species of turtle. But I would hate to exclude them because it's such a wonderful place to go to.
Yeah. Tony, you're from the Northeast also?
Excuse me?
You're from the Northeast also?
Yeah, I'm originally from Rhode Island. I live in New York.
Okay, so how does Bronx Zoo rate as far as turtles go?
Bronx Zoo is fabulous. Yeah, I love it. I started doing Bronx Zoo. I got a membership and I started going there a lot. And I practiced my photography there. Just practice and practice. I would go there like once a week or something, just to take photos. And then when I got a little bit better at taking photos there, I started taking more trips to other places.
Okay.
I actually did a Google search on best turtle zoos in the USA, and I started hitting them.
Was there a blog that exists for that? Did somebody write something up on that, or?
I found something, and most of them were Texas. So I said, all right, I'm going to go to Texas. So I started doing trips to Texas. And fortunately, I have some friends there that I can stay with. So I've taken several trips to Texas. Yeah. And there's a really kind of neat place called the Austin Aquarium. And it used to be like a supermarket or a store. Like the building is like a supermarket store. And it's kind of an interactive place where kids can actually, put their hands in the water and stuff. It's really cool. Again, in one of those places, it's got all these rescue type turtles. And they had a smooth soft shell, which I rarely see. They had red bellies. They had some New Guinea snapping turtles, and they had a bunch of stuff. They had a Mississippi map turtle with the black eye form, which is really interesting. Some African turtles. So it's interesting to see what some of these places have, especially the places that take the rescues.
As a child, I was really into turtles, but I wasn't into it where I was like reading about them. I just enjoyed being around them. My brother had painted turtles, things like that. So even being into them, I didn't know that there was more than like 3 species that we kept at the house. So when you say like five's the cutoff, I wonder how many people that are going to these zoos, even like we're like, no, that's a different kind than that one. That's a different kind than that one. Because even sometimes for us, it's hard to tell when between like subspecies. So as you were saying, like, going to Anthony's house, you get to see turtles you haven't seen anywhere else a lot of times. And that's because he's a fan of like just plain normal black looking turtles that don't make sense in the zoo because it's going to bore people, where we find it very interesting. But for the vast majority of people that are going to these zoos, I always find that the turtles are really, really niche because you have to like understand them a little bit and know what's out there in order to appreciate what's in there. Versus I walk up to like the red panda exhibit and I don't know anything about them, but I'm just like, oh my God, they're so cute. I just want to sit here and watch them for hours.
I have to check myself when I go. I don't want to be like, oh no, another Aldabra tortoise. I want to always appreciate. So I always make sure that I appreciate and take photos of everything. I had the pink belly, they call the pink bellies, the Australian
Side neck?
turtles.
Yeah, Emidara subglobosa.
Yeah, rugosa, yeah. I had a fabulous shot from the Shed Aquarium last time I went there. It's so good. It's going to be my number one shot on the page. So I said to myself, well, I don't need to take any shots of the pink bellies because I got my shot. So I found myself there taking a bunch of shots of the pink bellies because that's what you do. You see them, you want to take a shot of them. And even though I've got hundreds of shots of these turtles, and again, I have them on spreadsheets. I have them in folders. I've got 400 quality shots of spotted turtles, for example, in the wild and in zoos. But it doesn't stop me from taking more shots of spotted turtles because that's what it is. And even though I might have a million of them, that's what I'm there for.
So, there's not many more beautiful.
Yeah, and just to know that just because I've seen 100 different spotted turtles in zoos, it doesn't mean the people that are going to the zoos, they see them and they appreciate that. So I always make sure that I check myself, and I'm of course I'm going to go for the stuff that I rarely see. So that's what I do. But I take pictures of everything, any opportunity. Yes, photography is never done.
Yeah. So Tony, you can actually see everything that's on there, but I just wanted to read out loud. Michael Skipstead wrote that he's excited to get your book and that it's a tremendous initiative that is bound to inspire a lot of people. And Michael's somebody that inspires a lot of people by himself. So him saying that means a lot, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I watch his podcasts like all the time, religiously.
I wanted to mention that was actually on my list of things to bring up, the Colonia Cast and the Colonia Cast Fund as well. Not only are they putting out what's probably the best turtle podcast ever, not probably, but definitely, it's incredible what Michael and the guys have been able to do. But also, that the fund, they're raising money through that as well, and that's going to student-led research that is it's just really exciting. So please check them out if you haven't. Their show is amazing. They're producing a lot of content. I think they're already on episode 29, if I'm not mistaken. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And I'm nervous to keep talking long because that's when my internet starts going. So you guys can hear me, right? We're good? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm happy that you've been tuning into that, Tony, as well. I get excited when people that I love stumble on each other's, content that they're creating and everything. And there's a lot of room for all of us to be doing stuff. And you guys are both brilliant people that are doing great things.
Well, when you're writing a comprehensive book, I'm constantly taking notes. I'm constantly picking things up from different sources, and the YouTube podcasts especially. So I've got a notebook with me all the time, and I pick things up, and I'm always adding things to my Turtles on Social Media section, my organization section, and so forth. So I'm constantly adding to it. If you want to be comprehensive, you have to work at it.
Mhm.
So,
Speaking of content being created, Anthony, that looks like a new painting behind you.
It is. That's an Aldabra tortoise. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the species, but
I'm not.
it's an Aldabra tortoise. I painted that. I'm trying to be like Tony. Tony also is an artist, an incredible artist, and that's how we
Awesome.
first met. Actually, he was talking to me about his art at the 2016 New York Turtle and Tortoise Society annual turtle show, and that's where we first met. But yeah, art, man, art's
Can
fun.
you
Did
bring
you
that
actually
closer
paint
for everybody to
that?
see?
Yeah. What'd you say, Kevin? I did paint that, Emily. Yes, thank you very
That's
much.
awesome. Nice job.
I was asking
Thanks.
if you could bring it closer into frame so the viewers can actually see it. You're
He wants you to
9
bring
feet.
it closer so he can judge your painting.
I already judged it before. I saw this a week ago.
Okay.
Can you see it?
I do. I think it's
nice.
beautiful.
It's a painting.
Yeah.
So
It's
I want to tell you a little bit about Anthony. Anthony texts me randomly and he's like, "Hey, can you? My next painting's going to be an Aldabra. Can you send me some photos?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm at work. I'll get them to you soon." Like 10 minutes later, he's already painting that one. It's like you didn't
Perfect.
wait, buddy.
sorry, man.
Couldn't wait, you know.
I couldn't, and I'm not going to put in the effort to make sure that it's straight on the wall right now either.
Do you do
So,
acrylic painting or is
that's
it
how I
oil?
roll. Yeah, I used to do oil. I have an undergraduate degree in painting in studio art, and my concentration was painting. But I don't really do it anymore, and I paint now, and it kind of makes me frustrated because I can't paint like I used to. But I just do acrylic now just because it's quick and easy, and I just mess around with my kids because they like to paint, and we have like little bonding experiences together. So
It's great.
yeah, but
That's
I
awesome.
sold a painting at I didn't sell it. I donated it to the TTPG auction, and it sold for $1,200. I was really, really excited and proud.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. It was like
Yeah.
a group of people that went in to get it. It was pretty awesome.
You inspired me to bring some art next time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, people are going to go crazy for your artwork.
Yeah.
Tony's stuff is incredible. 1,500? I thought it was 12. It was 15. Thanks, Michael. That sounds even
So
better.
you're just being modest.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to brag, so I just lowballed my earnings for the TTPG. But that was all. It made me realize, like, I can do good in different ways, right? I don't have to just, and we've talked about this many times. Like, you don't have to be a biologist to make a difference. There's a lot of different ways that you can. And, but you know, tell 23, 24-year-old me that I really struggled with that. Like, I went to school for the wrong thing, and I felt really bad about myself. But there's a lot that you can do to make the world a better place for these animals that we care about. So,
So, Anthony, you see that note?
I did see that note. Yes, on November 18th. Also, we were part of an initiative, an effort in Pennsylvania to try to get some funding to the Turtle Room, and we were able to raise almost $8,000 through that effort. And I just wanted to say too that from those generous folks last month, and I also wanted to say I've been talking to a few people recently, and they get a little bit confused sometimes about what the Turtle Room does. Like, well, we have this Pondcast and other podcasts, and we have animals like Anthony keeps animals in his basement. I just want to set the record straight. There's zero Turtle Room money goes to any of that. We have actual in situ projects, amazing projects that are money to this point. That's what it's going to. So when we talk about the wood turtles in Pennsylvania, and we talk about hingeback tortoises in Africa, and flowerback box turtles and spangleri, leaf turtles in Asia, and as well as educational programs, that's where that money is going. And I think sometimes it gets a little bit misconstrued, and that's something that we're looking to focus on going forward, is to try to make that a little bit more clear. But I've never gotten a dollar for my animals from the Turtle Room. So anyway, look for the TTPG auction to benefit the Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group and US ARC next year when Tony Monahan's artwork fetches much more than Anthony's artwork, but we'll be friendly about it.
Tony, do you have any of your work online we could see?
Yeah, I think there's stuff online you can see. Yes.
I thought about
Anthony,
asking
I
ahead
gave
of
him a
time.
link.
But
I think I sent you a link, Anthony, to video. But yeah,
you did, but it's in my text. I'm not
yeah,
going to it now.
I don't have.
It's not going to happen.
Tony,
I
are
love you.
these paintings or are these prints of your photos that you've taken?
It's paper structure. My work is layers and layers of paper,
Interesting.
and
Okay.
it's three-dimensional. Maybe I can just, let's see.
Oh, is this going to happen? Yes. Annie's wearing a Turtle Room t-shirt. So this is built up, and it's totally three-dimensional, like
Wow.
Get
if you were
outta
looking at a
here.
turtle shell, but it's with individual one layer of paper, and he's building it with these paper. Each one's just a hair smaller than the next, so that you get that
Yeah.
three-dimensional form out of it, which is incredible.
Life cycle.
Yeah,
That's
and I
awesome.
haven't
Amazing.
actually seen his work in person, but in seeing it more and more in photos, I've been able to kind of comprehend. The first time we were talking, Tony, and I was in the middle of a turtle and tortoise show, I didn't really wrap my head around exactly everything you were doing until we were able to talk about it more in subsequent meetings and getting to know you a little more.
Yeah, it's there are problems to be solved. That's what I see. If the image isn't in my head, I have to figure out how to make it real. That piece I just showed you is a mathematic piece, and it's based on a mathematical formula called the Fibonacci progression. And I had to follow the formula to make the piece. And the piece is called the Fibonacci procession. And the large tortoise is, the shell is 35 layers of paper. So it's 7 times 5. The next turtle is 6 times 4. The next one is 5 times 3. So everything is math. And everything kind of adds up, and it's probably about 1.5 inches thick. Nuts and bolts holding everything together. It takes several months for me to do one art piece. So,
It's crazy, right?
yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's wild.
In a good way. In a good way, yeah.
I have dental tools and magnifying glasses and so forth.
I look forward to seeing them in person sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin
Last
does that.
time
He
I had a
invites himself
show,
over to people's
I had a
houses.
show in
No,
New York
TTPG,
City.
that's why. Punk.
Yeah. I had an exhibition in New York City, and one of my pieces was stolen.
Oh no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when you know you're doing something cool.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Like, I already heard that story. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how it ended too, so that's why it was a good ending.
Yeah. They pay me a lot of money for it.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh. Steve says when you start getting counterfeited, that's when you know you really made it.
Yeah.
I thought
And
the same
thankfully, I
thing.
had it photographed. I had it photographed before. I have everything photographed before I frame them.
Mhm.
At least I have a print of it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
My favorite piece probably was, and I know you're going to hate me for this, but probably the painting of the Eastern box turtle, Mr. What's his name?
Big Daddy Turtle.
Big Daddy Turtle. That's
Big
what
Daddy.
it is. But I just, because, that speaks to me. Like, you have the Eastern box turtle, but then there's all this blue in it. And I think it's really cool because that's a species where you do see some blue coloration in the species, but it's really hyped up, like where the shadow is like a really rich blue. Like, it's more my style. I love to hide like really high frequency color in.
Yeah.
Oh, lost them again for a second.
Turtles and their surrounding, again, darn it. You'll see a lot of normal colors around like the subject and then kind of hiding those bright colors.
Yeah, I started with paintings. I started doing art in 1997. I started with acrylics on canvas. And then within a year, I switched over to doing paperwork. I lived in California, lots of art stores in the Berkeley area. I worked in Berkeley. And I started collecting papers, and everything since then has been working with papers. I got my first commission, University of California, UC Berkeley, commissioned me to do a painting for their graduate school offices. And they wanted an abstract, and I gave them a leatherback sea turtle without the head and all flippers, a little bit of the flippers. So they got an abstract, and I gave them a turtle. They didn't realize it.
You're obsessed.
The title was Dermochellis coriacea and submerged in parentheses. And I told the guy, I said, one day someone's going to walk into this office and they're going to know exactly what it is. And one day he calls me up and says, you know, this professor was a marine biologist, came in and she said, oh my God, that's a leatherback sea turtle. I said, I told you.
Love it. I love it. Hiding turtles in plain sight. My favorite artwork is turtle artwork that you can tell what the species is too, if you're a real nerd.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't do abstracts, but I found a way around it.
Of course you did. One trick pony Tony. I love it.
I've been on a kick recently trying to find old like news articles and things from like magazines throughout the years of animals, and I've come across some like really cool like prints and stuff. So for instance, like this one's from, I think this is from like 1897.
Oh, wow.
And this is like the original print. Like the back of it, there's a certificate of authenticity, but the back of it has everything listed on it. It's just really some fascinating stuff. And I love, I never really thought about it, but the art aspect of it, you're doing it now, but while you're alive, but say 100 years, 150 years, someone's going to see that. And that's going to be like ancient history for them. They're like, this is amazing. This is this piece of work. Like when you got that book of lithographs, Anthony, how excited you were,
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing.
From 1857. Yeah.
Yeah. That history aspect of it's just, eventually it's going to be even more amazing, which is great.
And I wanted to make sure with my artwork that I did, anatomically correct turtles. I didn't want to just do, whimsical type artwork with, some flowered turtle that doesn't exist. So I wanted to do things that were correct. Mm-hmm. And I found a book at the University of Rhode Island Library. It was a German book called the Schildkröten something from 1961. And the book had schematics of like 200 different types of turtles. So I would go to the library and I would photocopy like 10 pages at a time. And I had it in a binder, and I'd since got the book. This book here, and
super cool.
Whatever. And I can, make the templates out of and do the paperwork. There's a sulcata. Everything is anatomically correct, from this book.
Pretty cool.
And I like to work that way. I like to make templates, and when I'm cutting. I like to keep it uniform. So that's what I use.
Will you be featuring any of your art in your book?
No, that's another book.
Really?
Different project.
Another book.
Yeah.
Another whole other project.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't see how that would fit.
I was just wondering, because you're highlighting so many things, But yeah, modest. Play it cool. I gotcha.
He's highlighting his photography, at least.
That's
it's going to
true.
be all your photos. So.
Yeah. This is a different project.
That's true. Good point. Okay, fine. So we don't know exactly when yet. We don't have a timetable yet, but you've completed so much. Every time you make a visit, you do the spread, the layout of that. that visit,
Yeah.
if that's something that you're going to include. How many pages do you think the book will be?
I estimate about 300 pages.
That's the real deal, man. I'm
It's a big
excited.
book.
You make me want to travel. What was your question, Kevin?
When did you officially start your project?
I officially started it in February of 2020.
It's a good time to start it, yeah.
My first trip was to Alabama.
That's funny.
And I was in China in December 2019.
Mhm.
I was working on an international assignment, and I came back on New Year's Day 2020, a couple days ahead of the COVID virus. We haven't been back overseas since. I worked at a college in Massachusetts that sent me overseas, teach graduate school for 2 weeks at a time. So I was traveling a lot. That 2019, I had five assignments. I did Costa Rica, China, Taiwan, Thailand, Trinidad, Mexico. So, and then it all came down. We haven't been overseas. I just finished a class in Panama, but it's online. Everything's online now.
Mhm.
But in Trinidad, I got to go and see the leatherbacks nesting. And that was in April. And then I went back in August with my daughter to help the little babies fight off the vultures, help the babies in the water.
It's awesome.
That was cool, yeah.
Now, clearly you can't get like right next to them when they're nesting, but like how far away were you? Could you really kind of tell the sheer size of them? They're just mammoth.
Oh, I was allowed to touch them.
While they're nesting, yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because when the nesting season, you had to get a guide and you have to get a license, and there's a lot of restrictions, and you had to go with the group. But when it was the hatching season, it was just me and my daughter on the beach, her and I, no one else. All day long, we're fighting off the vultures, helping the babies in the water, and nothing. I think the best time to go would be in June. That's when the sun is still light enough. When they come out of the water, your cameras will work. When I went in April, you can only use a red light. So any photography that I have is either red or you can switch it to black and white. But I'll go back there in June, but I'd rather go do the baby thing in August. In fact, my friend Peter, I have to mention Peter Warney. He is one of the inspirations for this book. Him and I have taken a lot of turtle trips. He's my turtle mentor, and he's been around for a long time. And the first New York Turtle and Tortoise Society show that I went to, he was the judge. And I actually met him when I went to a turtle lecture in New York City. He gave the lecture. So him and I have taken a lot of trips together, and I just was with him last month in Louisiana at a site that he's working at called L'Atelier, which is be a cool little turtle place. Still under construction, but it's an education center.
Peter's a great guy. I'm very grateful that you guys were able to come to my place and spend the day here, or a few hours here. I'm happy that you brought him along. What's the word that you use that they wrote in that book, Bushmaster, where there's a picture of Peter in the book, and I can't remember the adjective.
Ebullient.
And what does that mean?
Overly enthusiastic.
It needs to be in my vocabulary because it's true. It's so good. And we all know that you're posing for a picture with your favorite reptile, and the smile is just cornier. Yeah, but it's corny, but it's so strong, and there's no stopping it,
It's that kid that
That's
got
great.
Nintendo in 1987,
Yeah, right, exactly.
I talked to Peter today. He's already planning a turtle trip in March. And then, we're going to get those spotted turtles early in March, and
Right.
just going down to BioBlitz in April in Louisiana. So probably hook up with him down there as well. So any opportunity, I'm going to try to get there if I have the test, if my schedule works out.
That's really cool. I love it.
But yeah, I'm
So-
almost done with my research, my field work anyway. So
It's awesome. I can't wait to see it. I think this is a really, really important resource, and you can't even be overstated how useful and impactful this is going to be for so many people. And I just know there's going to be a whole generation of kids that say, I got this book and it changed my life. I think of Russ Gurley's book when I was kind of, becoming a different level of a turtle nerd at one point in my younger days. Or the field guides, like you mentioned at the beginning of this show, that we read that we checked out from the library again and again and again, and wore the pages down. I think I could see it being something like that for sure. I know it'll be something like that.
Well, when I started doing these trips, I started thinking there's got to be some kind of guidebook that for people like me.
Right.
I thought, wait a minute, let's do that.
That's the project right there. Exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The blueprint.
It's your Shark Tank pitch. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, and I needed to establish some rules. So, I needed to establish control over the project. So, the main rule, the first rule was 5 species or more. And it had to be a public place that, average person could go to. And I wanted to avoid waiting for people to respond to my email requests and my phone calls, because what I've learned is turtle people aren't really good at things like emails and phone calls and things like that. So I built in these controls that I didn't have to do that stuff. I mean, not for the purposes of that the main section anyway. I could just show up to the zoo, pay my fee, and do my thing. I do make sometimes make a phone call just to double check things. Believe it or not, the Turtleback Zoo in New Jersey doesn't have 5 species of turtle.
Classic.
And
Doesn't Chris get turtles from there though? Like
no, most of what he does, most of who he works with, there's Popcorn Park in New Jersey.
Okay. Casey worked there.
Casey worked at Turtleback Zoo for a little bit, yeah.
So I was thinking of going there a couple months ago. I had a couple days off that I was looking to fill, and I sent them an email and they didn't respond. So I made a phone call, and when the woman answered, I said, how many species of turtle do you have at the zoo? And her answer was, are you kidding me? How am I supposed to know that? I only work here.
I only work here. I only come here every day.
I had my pen and I wrote that down. And I said, get a load of this answer. Are you kidding me? How am I supposed to know that? So I didn't end up going back there. From last I checked, they only have like 3 species of turtle. The New England Aquarium doesn't have 5 species of turtle, but they have a rescue. They have a rescue program, so they can make the book as a rescue program.
That's interesting to me. That surprises me a little bit. I know they have the red-headed podocs.
Yes.
They have a sea turtle in the big tank.
Yeah.
I can't remember anything else now that you mention it.
And the Mystic Aquarium as well. They don't have 5 species.
That doesn't surprise me.
They have a rescue. So some of these places will fit in a different category.
What were you saying, Kev, about Mystic?
Mystic just burned down, didn't it?
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Like 4 days ago.
Mystic Aquarium burned down.
Like, I'm not kidding. Like 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah, let me look it up.
It's just in. I hadn't heard that either.
You made that up?
No,
like man. I did. Like I
watched
did
the video of
the
it
soup
on fire.
kitchen. Like when I made up the soup kitchen enclosure. If anyone is paying attention, is tuning in, and you know about the soup kitchen enclosure that has Maremmes anamensis, the Vietnamese pond turtle, in it, please speak up now.
Fire heavily damages marina warehouse in Mystic.
Warehouse.
We're in a warehouse, yeah.
Yeah, it's not Mystic Aquarium. Looks like. Never mind. Everything
Wow.
online was like Mystic Aquarium.
But in other turtle news, did you hear about St. Augustine? They just had 2 Galapagos tortoises stolen.
I did. I wasn't sure what exactly happened with that. I saw somebody posted pictures about how they were taken, but then they were El Dabbers in the picture. Did you see that, Kevin?
I didn't see it, but I see that happen all the time.
Yeah, I guess they posted that they believe they hopped over the fence and took 2. I saw the post about it, and I can't believe that happened. The keepers must be out of their minds.
Yeah,
They got these small animals. You're not like hoisting glops over a fence.
Yeah, well, they're still pretty small. I think they're only a few years old. But...
Yeah, they have some small ones there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, been there a couple of times.
It's really sad. Well, I don't want to keep you guys all night here. Tony, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I truly cannot thank you enough for this service that you're doing with the creation of your book. It's going to be a complete game changer, and I could not be more excited.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll be here next month, and we'll have Brian Kleinman on as a guest. He is the owner, operator, proprietor of Riverside Reptiles Education Center, which will be an interesting one. I'm hoping that Emily will mess with him a little bit and give him a hard time. I look forward to that. Just see
I can
their dynamic
guarantee a lot of
right?
heckling. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. That's what I want to see, is some heckling for sure. I think that's going to be awesome.
Will you be on separate screens or together?
He said he's gonna do it in his office, so we'll be on separate screens.
Classic,
Gotcha.
even better.
Yeah.
in the same place.
I'll just cover
screens.
my mic and yell at him down the hallway.
That's terrific. And then in February is the 10-year anniversary of the Pondcast. Our first episode was in February 2013. So for that special episode, we will be bringing back John Weir, the co-creator of the Pondcast, as a guest. It should be a very funny and entertaining show, I assume. So looking forward to those, and we have a speaker lineup all the way through the middle of next year. So we're really looking forward to bringing you some good content. And this was the first show in kind of doing that and restructuring a little bit. So looking forward to the future, and appreciate any feedback if anyone wants to send us any messages or anything like that. And again, thank you, Tony. Thank you so much, Emily, for being here. And thanks everyone for putting up with my internet.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.